there's two ways you could approach this, which is either one, you can sort of, as you guys were just saying, conceive of culture as being reflective of society. And so when culture is produced and it's reflective of society and it's mirroring a lot of the debates and the contradictions of that society, it is engaged in the work of politics, whether or not it's a chest thumping, fists in the air revolutionary, or it's someone who is presenting Black capitalism as an option to the Black community, right? So that's the one way of approaching it. But there's also another way where you could also say, and this relates to the conversation that was being had earlier, of how there's so much expectation on Black artists to be these spokespeople. And there's this other way where you could say, why don't we just separate the artist from their politics? That in aesthetic production, the artist doesn't necessarily need to be engaged in political work for that artist to be significant and for their work to be significant. Because to bring back what Suad was saying earlier, is that this is not something that you see happening with white artists, I suppose, right? There isn't the expectation that you have to ensure that your work is political in some level. So yeah, in terms of understanding this debate, to wrap the question up, is it a matter of all of it is political, the personal is political, as you were saying, Taliso, or should we just separate the art from the politics?
No separation. It's all the same, man. You know what I mean? Like it's life, bro. And you know what I believe, like, you know, some of the stuff, or even all of it, that the artists say, the stuff that they genuinely believe. It's sort of like, you know, it then becomes a question of balancing livelihood and, you know, being seen as doing something within the community, I suppose. But there's no separation for, at least. And also, it's worth it, you know, for artists to remember that whatever your stand is, history remembers. We have the receipts, and we will remind you that, yo, you weren't really down with the movement, or what changed? Yeah.
Work.
Yeah, I mean, I think to answer that question, I think you know, hip hop always, regardless of the subgenres that exist and the different kinds of, you know, iterations that exist right now, it always started out as this resistive medium, right? Marginalized people of color. This was a forum to articulate their concerns. So, I guess to answer the question why white artists aren't really expected in the same way as Black or brown artists is because, like, honestly, white people have never really been oppressed. You know, there isn't that obligation to speak for your community. There is no obligation to exist as an exceptional form of Blackness in some kind of way. But you know, that being said, it's like, when can we get to the point where you can just have, honestly, just Black mediocrity? You know, when can you get to the point where you just have people simply living their lives without this kind of obligation? And yeah, I really think we do need to kind of, you know, just kind of focus on the idea of, like, what exactly do we mean by political? Like you were saying, William, you know, is simply representation on a mainstream stage is political. Gender politics, that's very different from racialized politics. Black capitalism is a form of political expression, but it's not in the sense of a conventional political move that is intended to, you know, mobilize a group and sort of push for actual change. So yeah, I would agree with Celito, and perhaps err on the side of saying simply representation is political. You know,